Welcome to another episode of the I Know a Guy podcast. On this week's episode, I've got a great friend of mine. His name is Kyle New. Kyle, born and raised in Florida. Dude knows how to fly drones, highly smart, intelligent, star quarterback in high school, and now he went to the West Coast. He traded in Governor Ron DeSantis for Gavin Newsom. No, what he really did was trade in some really good weather. Kyle, the weather you told me is really good out there.
Yeah, it's incredible. I my description when people ask is if you take Florida's best day out of the year, we get that multiplied by 300 out here. It's incredible. It's impossible to beat.
That's not so Florida's not all it's cooked up to be. Yeah, it is cooked up. It's hot.
It's,
And
it
muggy.
is. It is very muggy, very humid. That you don't get that out here. You get kind of east of San Diego and LA out into the desert, and you get a dry heat. You get 110, 120 degree temperatures, but it's a completely different heat. So I try to avoid those areas during the summer and just enjoy San Diego. You get the nice kind of cool ocean breeze, and it cools off every night. And there's zero humidity, so you don't sweat when you walk outside at night. It's hard to beat.
Heck yeah. So we're doing this like virtual podcast thing. It's the first one I've done, Kyle. And
Yep.
actually, so far, it's not bad. A few technical difficulties. We worked through it.
Yeah, we're rolling.
You put a video up on YouTube recently or on Facebook, I think it was. You got a pretty cool drone footage.
Mm-hmm.
What happened there? Because for example, so let me set this up.
Okay.
You fly drones working as a subcontractor for companies to. You probably do more than I know, but as I understand it, analyze really, really big or inspect large utility transmission lines and things like that.
Yep. Yeah, so we all different things.
Okay.
As a drone service provider, we work with utility companies, performing aerial or overhead inspections. Sometimes we just work independently. Sometimes we work with journeyman linemen in the field and do inspections, do data analysis, kind of hosting GIS mapping. We do LiDAR, so we kind of do a turnkey. And then we also work in the telecom industry. So we have nationwide contracts, do a lot of T-Mobile, AT&T, a little bit of Verizon. And so we inspect, cell towers like you see out out here in Southern California, not a ton of cell towers. It's a lot of rooftop mounts that, again, unless you do it, you never even pay attention to it. But as soon as you start doing it, you notice every single one of them. So we do anywhere between 800 and 1,000 cell tower inspections a month, and got 8 or 10 pilots flying for us. And then with utilities, it's kind of seasonal. We'll go 9 or 10 months out of the year, take a couple months off, and then kind of start up the next phase. And sprinkle in a little bit of mapping, a little bit of thermal, and a little bit of video production, just because that's what I love to do. And that kind of sums it all up in a nutshell for our drone service provider side.
Okay, so you used the word pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Did you just make that up, or are these really pilots? Like, what's going on here?
No. So the FAA recognizes us as remote pilots, and we actually get, I don't have it on me right now, but we actually get a pilot's license. It looks similar to an actual airline pilot's license, or it's a certification. And so we're referred to as drone pilots or remote pilots in command is a common term. Yeah, we are recognized.
Okay, so I have the Mavic Pro something. I don't know what it is. It folds up. It's really cool. Batteries last like 28 minutes, but then they swell up, and then I can't find my drone anymore because it flew off somewhere on its own.
Yep.
I actually still have my original drone because you're the one who helped me out. And I say, yeah, this is the one. I went out with you one time. This was actually really cool moment, and I didn't think we were going to talk about this today, but we have to.
Oh, yeah.
And you go as far as you want to go or not to go. Okay.
Okay.
So a few years ago, you had gotten clearance from the Gainesville, Florida airport to fly your drones with some pilots around and on the University of Florida campus.
Correct. Yeah, we've actually
okay. Go ahead.
Approval multiple times. I think you were with me both times.
Yeah, actually, I was. Yeah, that's right.
We got to fly all around campus, but mainly the football field, Steve Spurrier Stadium, and or I guess Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, Steve Spurrier Field.
Yeah.
But that was during the off season, and it was the first time that we got clearance from the FAA, from Gainesville's tower, and from the University of Florida, because even though the FAA cleared us, the University of Florida still controls whether or not we can launch and land on their property. So that was the toughest battle, was getting them to allow us to do it. We had to coordinate with the university police department, and so that was a lot of fun. And then the second time we got it was actually for college game day back in, there's a COVID year. This is when Florida played Auburn. We were both undefeated. I think we were both top 7 or top 9. And was it LaMichael Pirine had the long 88-yard touchdown run. And yeah, that was, so we got to fly for college game day, kind of before, all the way up until about 2 hours before the game, because that's when the TFR, or temporary flight restriction, came into play. So yeah, that one was probably a lot more fun, because there's a lot more coordination, a lot of things you had to look out for, a lot of spotters, which is, part of what you were there for. But it was a lot more fun because the footage was incredible, and I think some of it got aired on ESPN.
Oh, that's really cool. So
Yeah.
what stuck out to me was, so you mentioned, so we'll talk about the original shoot, right? You're on campus, it's off season, and you come out there with these, there's one of the things, is it called Inspiron or something like that? Some huge drone, right?
Yep.
And
the Inspire. Yep.
The Inspire, you get these incredible pictures and stuff, and you did coordinate with the local police department, but that didn't stop people from coming up and telling you that you couldn't be there.
Oh, it happens all the time. You can go through all the safety precautions. You can throw out the launch pad and the cones and have your vest and hard hat and, do all the things right from a safety standpoint. And people are still going to come and tell you what you can and can't do. It's part of it. You kind of learn how to mitigate that and how to talk to people. You have to, if you're going to do this full time, you have to really develop good customer service skills, because inspecting power lines, you have people come up and, what are you doing? You're spying on me. Doing cell towers, it's not as bad because they're usually a little more remote. But then doing mapping missions and stuff like that, even if you have clearance, it doesn't matter. They still come out and they know best.
So maybe you can't talk about it. Have you been approached by any government entities that may want you to help with stuff? Like, I'm not talking about power lines. I'm talking about more military type drone stuff right now. Okay.
No, we haven't military type stuff. I have got to work with the FAA out here.
Okay.
I've met some of the reps and just kind of trying to bridge the gap between, drone pilots are trying to find a way to safely and legally form operations to maximize the opportunity and the efficiency of drones, and some of the FAA rules and regulations that are in place that make it difficult. So you have to get waivers or authorizations to do it. And so just actually a couple of weeks ago, we had a drone safety day nationwide, but the local college put it on, and they had 5 or 6 reps from the FAA, some of them from DC. So I got to have a lot of cool conversations with them about, we actually do this for a living. Here's some of the bottlenecks that we see. And I think one time while I was out flying, I've actually been ramp checked by the FAA, where they come and check and make sure you have, because, legally you're supposed to have a pre-flight checklist and a safety mitigation plan, and then your Part 107 and your recurrency on you if you have renewed your license or certification. So I've been ramp checked once. Guy was super cool. We had all of our paperwork in order. Just, we keep it all on us just in case. But it was first and only time I've ever been checked on by the FAA.
That's like a game warden, right?
Yeah, exactly like a game warden.
You're off doing something. Did they know you were going to be there, or they just showed up?
Yeah, so they know. Like, everybody thinks, because remote ID is a big topic, and now it's broadcasting your position, but it's always been broadcasting your position. Like, the FAA knows where you're at, and so that's how they're able to ramp check you. And we had a waiver in place and said, hey, we're going to be here at this time, flying in this small proximity from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. This is going to be our flight operation. And so they knew, but they also get that broadcast information. So if you were to be flying too close to an airport, they're going to find you. Just like when you're flying at the Super Bowl and there's a TFR in place where you can't fly a drone within 30 miles of the Super Bowl stadium, and you launch it anyway, they know where you're at and they come and find you pretty quick.
Really? Mm-hmm. So you're telling me that my drone that I did not, and I'm not saying I didn't do it, but my drone's not registered. I've never filled out any of that stuff. And I throw that up in the air, they've got the technology to find what's happening where it's all wow.
Yeah, well, you're using your cell phone as your flight app, and
Yeah, I
it's
didn't say that. Yeah,
online.
I didn't think about that. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Man, we put everything out there. I talked to
I know.
someone, I had a gentleman on the podcast a few months ago, and I was talking about the whole cell phone being sort of like a dog collar. Every app on here
Mhm.
tracks you, you give all your information out, etc. So what did
Yep.
you film recently, right? It was pretty cool. You put it on social media, you saw something and unique.
You might have to remind me of the video because I put out a decent bit of content.
Yeah, give me a second here. Well, it's gonna take me a minute, but it was God, it was on social media. I felt like it was natural. Give me a second here.
Okay.
I don't know why a bird's
Yeah, we
coming to mind.
try to document as much as we can. Sometimes it's tough when you're a single operator. You can't really film yourself flying, but
You have any like cool moments and things that you've seen done that maybe I don't know. You're
I've seen a lot of really cool stuff. I mean, especially doing telecom work. It's like I said, some of the sites are really remote. I mean, even yesterday, I was out, kind of right off of Lake Havasu
Mhm.
in kind of on the Arizona California border. I think the border actually runs right down the middle of the lake, and just the cell site was on the very top of the mountain. The views were incredible. It's like I just kind of want to hang out up here all day. There's nobody around. My cell service isn't good enough
Yeah.
for anybody to call me or text me or bother me. Like this is just taking the the beauty around and work a little bit and make some money. So it was cool. But yeah, I'm seeing a ton of really cool things. Got to do a couple of cool jobs. Did um the ESPN College Game Day thing. Got to live stream and also film for CBS. They did I think it was the World Championships of jet skis. That was cool. Like
Really?
flying the drone around, chasing jet skis. Yeah, yeah, that was cool. It was a couple years ago down in Naples, and that was a really cool event. Still have a lot of the footage, but that was
Sure.
that's
Well,
probably one of the coolest things we've done.
the picture or video that I remember, I thought it involved a bird or something up
Oh yeah,
high.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I was inspecting a cell tower, and there was an osprey, and it had a
Yes,
fish. It was
that's right.
just
Thank you.
eating the fish, and it ripped the head off and was just eating it. And osprey's a federally protected bird, so I couldn't fly the site. And typically they want documentation, so I had the Mavic 3 Enterprise, which has a pretty solid zoom camera. So I was far enough away and just snapped a photo to say, hey, there's wildlife at this cell site. Update the site owner, update the carrier, which I think was T-Mobile. That hey, there's an active
Mhm.
osprey. There wasn't a nest, but there's an active osprey, and makes sense because there was a lake nearby, and it was, um, it was feeding time for them. But yeah, it's funny. Actually, the same week we had two other pilots send similar photos. Say, hey, your photo was cool, but check this out. I caught this earlier this week, and so yeah, I guess it must be that time of year.
So when I think of California, I think of the great white sharks off the coast.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever
Mm-hmm.
filmed sharks from a drone?
I have not. I've
Okay.
not been out and filmed them yet. I've done some ocean stuff, like just kind of off the coast, but never been offshore and filming. And
Wait.
I see a
Mhm.
lot of people doing it now with the drone that has the actual like release system where they'll take like a hook and bait, and they'll
Okay.
fly a drone out with like a polarized filter so you can kind of see through the water, and they'll find the school of fish and just release. I mean, it's kind of like cheating. It's like hunting with a thermal camera.
Yeah.
Like it's cheating, but I mean, if your objective is to catch a bunch of fish, or if you're chartering a boat and you need to catch fish to get paid, then I guess that's a good use case for it.
I've got a buddy of mine who's chartered a guy to fish. I won't say his name or area
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want to blast anybody. But I guess he was taking him out snook fishing, and he's gotten skunked twice by the same guy. I'm like,
Oh
yeah,
wow,
you probably shouldn't go anymore.
no, no, find a new captain.
Yeah, we're trying to. I think there's one. I actually had a friend years ago who was going to do the charter fishing thing, and
Mm-hmm.
the one thing about Florida fishing, in my opinion, on the Gulf Coast, it's hard to get skunked. In my opinion,
It
like
is.
you can get sea trout, you can get. I don't even care if you get little bait fish. You can catch something, ladyfish. Something's going to catfish. If you get
Mm-hmm.
catfish, move your spot. And he's like, hey, I'm going to be retiring soon from this job and I'm going to be a captain. And I'm like, well, we're renting a big skiff, me and my brother. Why don't you come out there with us? He goes, yeah, I'll show you. Because I've always seen pictures he put on social media. Let me tell you what, he put us up near an oyster bar. A million horse flies all over the boat. I'm getting bit up. And he goes, all right, let's just cast out here. We caught nothing the entire day, zero. And I'm not a great fisherman, but I am not getting skunked on Florida's west coast, the Big Bend area. Like if you've got a gulp, a shrimp, even just a hook, you're going to catch something. But that reminded me of that. So Kyle played football here in Florida. He was a star quarterback. So if you see a helmet over his right shoulder, that was his.
There it is.
And that right there will be on eBay one day for sale, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to know that.
Autographed.
So you're about to launch a platform or something coming up soon?
Yeah. So we have, I know we kind of talked about our drone service provider side, but as we started growing that portion of the business, one of the biggest holdups we had was training and education and having a video production background. I got sick of either flying myself all around the country or driving all around the country to train guys up or have them fly to me. Started building out video training platforms for our guys in-house. And it expedited the learning and success rate that our guys were having. So the drone industry is a pretty high turnover. If you don't have success right away, you start to doubt yourself. And so we went from, probably a 60 or 70% turnover rate to about a 10% turnover rate. And guys were catching on from, 8 weeks at making money or making good money to they were starting to make good money on week 2, week 3. So, kind of took a look at that and said, this is missing in the industry. There's a lot of guys out there, the kind of the social media influencers who try to sell you a mapping course or how to fly a drone or get a cinematic shot. Like you see that everywhere, but there's nothing out there that says this is how you perform utility inspections at different levels. This is how you perform telecom inspections. This is what's important and what employers are looking for in the solar industry or mapping and LiDAR. And so we took that and built an entire platform, an entire community around, kind of being positive, being encouraging and uplifting to pilots coming into the space, because Facebook and Reddit can just be brutal to new pilots. It's one of the most gate-kept industries. So we built out all this training, did it at different levels. We've got a beginner, an intermediate, and an advanced level training for each industry. And so now you come in, you can take the training rather than paying $800 or $1,000 for one course. You can subscribe to a level, a beginner, intermediate, or advanced level, and take all the courses and figure out, hey, I've taken 15 courses at the beginner level. I only liked this and this. So now if I want to move up my membership to the intermediate level, I'm only going to focus on these 2 courses and, go to the advanced level. And then on the back end of that, we have partnered up with companies who have endorsed our training and have a need for pilots, but don't necessarily have the budget or the department to do a ton of in-house training. So, if pilots are willing to invest in themselves and their education and get to a certain level, you're now networked with people who work in the industry looking for qualified pilots. And it kind of bridges 2 gaps in one platform while being positive, being encouraging, being uplifting. And then we'll also have kind of like in-person training. We'll have live classes where, we meet once a week live virtually. The one we've gotten the most feedback on is our 0 to 100K course, where, we take over a 12-week period, go from no experience to the skill set to make a 6-figure income. And, once you're done with the course, you're also, again, networked with some of these companies that have the biggest utility contracts, have the biggest telecom contracts in the country. And all those guys have signed off on our training and feel comfortable with the way that we're teaching, so that they know, hey, if I hire this guy and he's gone through this course, I feel completely comfortable him coming in day 1 and being ready to go.
So I'm going to put in the link below, below the video, a link to your contact stuff so people can do this.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be really cool. A lot of people don't really know, a whole lot about where you start with this kind of stuff. And I know you started it from the ground, right? You started teaching yourself all this stuff.
Yep.
Because I
When
know
I
that
was
I've asked you questions like, "Hey, what camera?" And you're like, "Okay, Ben." And I appreciate the information because the information you share in 2 seconds is something that you've taken hours, days, and weeks to try to formulate and understand and do and figure out. So,
Yep.
so you're telling me someone can actually make six figures doing drone flights and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we might have maybe one pilot who doesn't work full time year round, but every other pilot we have flying for us makes over six figures.
Wow, that's good money, especially
Hmm.
when you don't have to work with somebody in an office every day.
Yeah, you get to travel the country. Now it's I guess more set up for people who want to travel or who are more open to travel. It's a little more difficult to make six figures working locally unless you build your own brand and build your own business. But for the guys or girls that are willing to travel, and a lot of our pilots travel 8 months out of the year and are home 4 months out of the year, but in those 8 months still make six figures. They'll
Hey,
go on the road for three
and
weeks at a time.
I saw on social media where you posted you 33 days on the road, 10 different states, almost 8,000 miles driven, flown, working
Yep.
around. But see that
Yep.
that's interesting to me because I like traveling. I like seeing new
Yeah.
things.
I love it. It's harder for me now. So I did it a lot before I got married and started a family. But even that post was from after having, we've got a 1 year old at home and my wife stays home and takes care of him. And, most of the time I'm home, but on occasions, in that situation, we had a ton of work come in and needed to be completed in a short period of time. So it went out for, I think it was 33 days. And you're able to make a really good sustainable income. And I think there's two approaches to it when you're getting into the industry. There's a lot of people who will tell you find your niche, find what you currently do and implement drones into it. And I think that's a good way to start to build or taste success. Like, if you're a realtor coming
Yeah.
in and, hey, you know what, I know that I have to take photos, I have to take videos for my listings, kind of create some sizzle reels, generate interest. So maybe you start with doing stuff like that with real estate for residential and then commercial, and then kind of grow it into social media branding videos and stuff. But at some point that has a slow season, or the market turns down. And so I think starting that way is a good idea because it allows you to taste success. But after that, you have to diversify your portfolio. If you are really good at that, and then you learn telecom and you learn utility inspections and you learn how to map, then you go from having seasonal work to you can work year round, because those are always going. Now, utilities may take a 3 month break. And so when it does, you can go do telecom inspections, and
Mm.
telecom has its slow seasons. And when it does, you can do, real estate and marketing, and, or hop on a utility contract. Cause again, turnover is pretty high. So there's people coming and going all the time. So if you diversify your portfolio a little bit and have a skill set, and you don't have to be an expert at any of this. I'm not a journeyman lineman. I'm not a telecom guy. I'm not any of that. I mean, this is all self-taught stuff. So there is the ability to make a full-time living, work year round by, being familiar with several different industries.
Artificial intelligence changing how you guys do things at all in
Yeah.
terms of
Oh
the
yeah.
okay. What's that like?
So right now it's with inspection work, it's really changing workflows. I think a lot of people in the industry are scared that artificial intelligence is going to take over the actual flight. I think we're still a long ways away from that. It has a tough time. You can set it up on a flight path, but trees grow. Especially the power lines is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Trees grow. You're going to have obstacles in the way. They change out poles, and or change the direction of the line. The drone doesn't know that, so it may run into a tree that wasn't there a year ago. So I think the autonomy of the flight stuff is still a little ways out. But the autonomy of the back end stuff, like even mapping now, you can go out, set an automated flight path, hit the go button. The drone goes up, takes all the photos, come down, pop an SD card in, upload it to a software and say, create a map. And then a couple hours later, you have this orthomosaic map. And it takes very little skill set. So, then you also have on the inspection side of things with telecom and with utilities, you're starting to automate the inspection process. And, with utilities, you'll never be able to fully replace journeyman linemen doing these inspections, but you can streamline it. You can take, 1,000 photos, and instead of the journeyman looking at 1,000 photos, now he only has to look at the 150 that the software said, hey, this is a potential issue. And then the more you do it, the more you're training it, the more it's learning, the more it's building and becoming more robust. And so you're starting to see those implementations in the industry now. And I think just in that aspect, it has changed a lot of things. It's also made inspections more affordable for the end user. So, now, which kind of the nice thing from that is people aren't spending less money. They're just getting more infrastructure inspected.
Wow, 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 wow. Drones are pretty intense because they're all sorts of drones. What's the biggest drone? Not necessarily most expensive, but biggest drone that you have in size?
The biggest drone that we have and use on a pretty regular basis is the Matrice 300 or Matrice 350 series. We fly the FreeFly Alta, but that's not often. That's the biggest.
How big is that? Would you say? Like, is there a way like to?
I mean, it's big.
Is that something you can like a small kid could hang on and lift them up?
So they have DJI has the Agris drones, which are the crop spraying drones, and then they also just came out with the Flycart, which is the drone delivery drone,
Amazon stuff or whatever.
And there's actual videos. It's other countries, but there's videos of like college age kids hanging off of this drone. And there's a video where the drone like flies it over a lake, and the guy just lets go down into the lake.
That's insane.
But yeah, it's incredible how big some of these things are. Like the agriculture drones are huge. They're like flatbed trailer big.
Wow.
Yeah, they'll get over the 55 pounds. So you have to have other certifications and licensing than just the Part 107.
Yeah, you got to think we're pretty close to it. I'm sure it's already being tested for recreational flying, if you will, almost like a hovercraft, but.
Or flying cars exist. It's again not in the United States, overseas, but if you look them up, there's kind of like the Jetsons. Flying cars already exist, and there's people. I
didn't think that was ever going to happen.
Them. I know.
I did the Jetsons. So I'm like, oh, George Jetson. So wow.
Yep.
Drone life's pretty cool because I remember years ago when I was in real estate and you were talking about it to me, and I'm like, oh man, that sounds so cool just to travel all over and fly drones, because drones are fun. They're like, it's got like a video game joystick. I mean, I guess there's probably other. My stuff was small, right? I had a little iPad hooked up or phone hooked up to the drone and whatnot. But So in terms of what's next for you? I mean, you've got this platform rolling out. You're doing the drone stuff. You is Hollywood, like maybe you're gonna be on set flying these things. I just saw. So you were talking about, what'd you say? Jet skis championships or something like that. There was this world record. I think it was sponsored by Red Bull. This world record downhill skier that was flying up, and I watched the video of this. So there's a drone following the skier all the way down, but then I watched the video of this drone. I'm like, this drone, whoever was either flying it, unless it was AI, like had to go down, descend across this path, and then follow this. Like you get one shot.
Yep,
one shot to get that right.
Those FPV drones. So a lot of the commercial drones that you see nowadays are easy to fly. You get it up in the air and you just let go of the controller and it sits there, it hovers right in place. The FPV drones don't. It takes a lot of skill to fly those. And I know the video you're talking about. Okay. And like the one take bowling alley where the drone comes swooping in and follows the ball and goes through where the pins go down and all that stuff. It takes an incredible amount of skill to do that. And even that guy, who's one of the most talented in the world, I think he said that was his 9th take to try to get that right.
Are these folks? They're so those drones at those speeds, like the ones those games, people they're like racing drones.
Yep.
Like how can you see that quick? Like I can't even. Maybe I'm just slower. I'm from the South. And I just like that doesn't register for me. Like how you.
I think it's the video game generation. Like you got so used to the refresh rates and everything going on. Like I know I'll even every great now and then when I have a little bit of time, I'll bust out the Madden sticks and play a little bit. And I'm like, man, it's evolved so much and it's hard to even keep up with anymore. But I think it's just that generation, and you have the FPV goggles, so it's kind of like a first person view. But then I think it's also practice and repetition. Like they know the course as well as the skiers do.
Sure.
And so, they're able to go down and know like, hey, I need to bend here to miss the flags. And it's becoming a very popular tool in cinema and film, because you can do the one takes where you're on the 20th floor apartment building and the couple's talking, and then it like flies out and dives down the building and
Right.
flies into the getaway car. And so it's just it's added such a cool element to cinema.
And you, and
And
you
then
see
and then
the events, right? The Super Bowl and things like that, where they have this huge drone light show. They're almost even taking the place of fireworks in
Yep.
some cases. I was at a Disney event in Orlando where it's a big fireworks display, but now they've integrated the drone light show too, that's taking a part of that away. So,
yeah, I think at some point the city of Alachua will probably adopt that, and I'm pretty sure in California you have to do that because it's illegal to set fireworks off out here with all the
oh wow,
wildfires.
yeah.
Drone shows are a lot more popular on the West Coast.
Okay, yeah, I'd say so. We hear about the wildfires, but out there, I
Mhm.
know you guys hear about hurricanes coming here and in the Midwest, tornadoes, which
Yep.
that's something I do a lot, by the way. And I don't, this might be an opportunity for, because I'm always thinking money. And I mean, how can we
Yep.
do this, right?
hmm
You could, I know you couldn't do for in your inspections, but I watch these guys do this tornado chasing. You ever seen that stuff on YouTube or live?
Oh yeah.
You guys are getting paid. Like they're like, there's little money running at the bottom, people just donating money. I'm
hmm
moving to some property where I'm actually going to set up a bird camera in
hmm
like critters and have a camera on it. Like just donate a little bit of money when you can, people. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know.
Feed the
But
feed
I'm
the
saying you got the
birds.
drones, so now you're like, hey guys, sit
Mhm.
back, and gonna put on a drone. There's gonna be a sunset over the whatever of
Yeah.
the ocean, or maybe it's
Yep. The live experience.
yeah. It's also, so YouTube's doing this YouTube TV where you watch this ad, and
Mhm.
once the first ad's over, you can skip the rest of them and just
Mhm.
enjoy this peaceful video until the program comes back on.
Mhm.
And I do believe there's this relaxing, I don't know what the word is, lifestyle people want. And for me, that's why I get on YouTube and watch live cams. My wife goes, "You're weird." I'm watching, the beach in St. Augustine, or I'm watching the Old Faithful in Yellowstone National Park is on there, and so it's got some cool music playing. And I just sit there and watch that, and get on my phone and just relax. But
Yep.
it's time for the drone world to take us up into the sky, and we can be up there with the bald eagles and stuff. But
Can't fly around a bald eagle. That'll
I
land
didn't
you
mean
in
that
jail.
part. FAA. I didn't want to do that. So you're telling me if there's a bald eagle, you can't fly. You're down.
No, and definitely don't take photos and advertise it. I've seen
Really?
people be it's illegal. It's highly illegal. It's
Time out. FAA, time out. What do you mean it's illegal? You're up there doing a job. Bald eagle goes, "Yo, I'm coming in here," and you go, "Whoa, I'm snapping a photo." We got problems with that?
I don't like photos. I'm just saying, like, if you have a drone in the air and you took a photo of a bald eagle, you're gonna have to explain, and then shared it, and then the
Okay, you're
FAA
gonna
came
explain
knocking on
why
your.
you
You're
have
gonna have to
that.
explain why you took it in the air while the bald eagle was flying towards you, rather than landing on the ground and then taking it with your phone.
Or a picture of the nest and the bald eagle sitting there in a nest, 100 plus feet up in the air. That's the thing. Are the trees a lot taller where you are than here? Even
in northern California, yes. In Southern California, not so much. We get every now and then you have some areas that have the eucalyptus trees that somebody brought in and thought it'd be a good idea, and all it is just wood to burn fire hotter. But up north you have like the redwoods, and you start to get some pretty giant trees.
San Diego's pretty close to Mexico.
Yeah, it butts up to Mexico. It's San Diego, I get, to me, is kind of like, you just always think it's San Diego, but once you live out here, there's 50 suburbs of San Diego, kind of similar to Orlando. You got Kissimmee and Altamont, and all these small suburbs that make it up. So San Diego's kind of right in the heart where the airport is, and that it's probably 20 minutes from the border. But then you have Chula Vista and Bonita and National City, and all those are kind of cities that lead down to the border. And then you move north. Like I live on the north end of the county in San Marcos, so it's I live in San Diego, but like I don't live in San Diego.
Do you how long would it take you to get from where you are to Mexico, the border?
About an hour, 45 minutes to an hour.
Do you ever go across?
I almost went across once on accident. We were actually doing LiDAR on a utility strip, and the pole was right on the border. And so Google is taking me, and I'm following it, trying to figure out where I'm getting off because the roads just get really congested down close to the border. And sure enough, we start crossing the border, and I'm like, oh shit.
Not
So
good.
I've heard tons of horror stories, and
Really?
so yeah, I actually had a truck stolen and taken across the border, and so
Time
we're,
out.
we're getting
A truck
getting
stolen?
close.
A truck
I'll,
stolen?
I'll
Okay, go
I'll
ahead.
come back to that because this story is really cool too. So I'm crossing the border and the federales stop us, and I'm like, hey, I made a mistake. I'm trying to get to this pole right here, and thank goodness they were cool because they were like, okay, we have this little secret back way that you can get back into the United States. And so they took me all the back ways. And so we come out, and I'm just having to manually find this pole because Google keeps wanting to take me across the border. So it turns out, and I didn't know this until that day, that there's two walls in between the United States and Mexico. There's the United States wall and there's the Mexican wall. And there's about 40 feet in between. And that's where these power lines were.
Oh,
So
wow.
like flying a drone in no man's land. So it was really cool. We had to keep our flight routes where it didn't cross over the Mexican wall. But we were still able to get what we needed. And so it was really cool. I didn't know that. Now, because we've worked close to the border a lot, doing utility inspections, doing telecom work, and this is the first time I actually got close enough to see, hey, there's two walls here, and there's a lot of contractors working in between. And then I also in Calexico, which is further east, I was doing a cell tower inspection, and it was right on the wall, and they actually had part of the wall taken down so that they could build out whatever they were building right there. Like you could literally just walk across the border and nobody'd ever know.
Did anything cross your? How long ago was that? Did that happen?
That was probably like 8 months ago, 8 months ago.
Okay. Did you kind of go, oh, this isn't good?
Oh yeah, I'm full on panic mode because and the panic comes from the stolen truck story. So
Okay.
funny enough, when I was filming the CBS jet ski race is when I got the phone call about my truck. But anyway, my truck goes missing. I had it parked in a friend's apartment parking lot, and
In San Diego.
in San Diego because I was shipping it back to Florida. We were doing some work. I needed a truck. I had a 2003 F-250, had the 7.3 diesel in it, and it broke my heart because I looked for this truck for like 6 or 7 years to find the right one, and I finally found it, bought it. I'm like, hey, this has best diesel engine Ford's ever made. So put some money into getting it exactly how I wanted it. I still have my Jeep at the time, so I used that most of the time. The work we were doing required 4-wheel drive and a lifted truck. So I shipped it out, used it for a couple months, and I was shipping it back home. And the parking lot, the apartment complex that my buddy lived in had a wide enough area to where these big shipping semis, truck haulers can fit. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'll leave it here for a couple days until this guy shows up. Well, the day before the guy shows up, I go to just check on it. Truck's gone. I'm like, what the hell? So I call, he out here, you can call the non-emergency line, and they actually have your tag database, so they can tell you if it was towed and who has it.
Okay.
So I called, and they're like, hey, we don't have it. So I'm like, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And some of the people who've been out here for a long time, they're like, your truck got stolen, taken across the border, chopped up for parts. Like, no, that didn't happen to me. So sure enough, a couple days later, I'm down in Naples filming this event, and I get a phone call from a Hispanic lady, and she's like, hey, why are you littering in my yard? I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, no, I found a piece of paper that has your name and phone number on it. And it was apparently a piece of paper I had in my truck. So it clicks for me. And at this time, I'm still naive. And I'm like, oh, hey, my truck got stolen. Where are you located? And she lived in, there's like a transition part of the country in between Mexico, like Mexico and Mexico. It's so she lived there. It's like a 10-mile stretch. And so a lot of people that live there come across and work in the United States, and then they'll go back and after work. So that's what she told me. Hey, I work in the United States. This happened to my husband like send me a photo of your truck and I'll help you look for it. So I send her a photo, and I'm going about my day filming. And she calls me again. She sends me some photos. She said, I found your truck. And I was like, no, that's so awesome. She's like, yeah, the guy said that a couple kids brought it over here. He's a mechanic. They sold it to him for $2,000. I was like, okay, well, I will give him $2,000 if he'll give me my truck back. And so she's okay. You know, the guy, he agreed. If you send me $2,000, I'll give it to him now. And I was like, no, I'll give it to him in person, cash at the border. And so then it turned into, well, you have to come across to the Mexico side. So I called just the local police department. I said, hey, this is my situation. I'm not from here, so I'm not as privy to what's going on. And one of the detectives called me back, and he was like, hey, listen, I don't want to scare you, but if you go across the border to get your truck, you'll never come back.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm dead serious. I was like, it's like, what? He was like, yeah. He said it's happened. Like you'll go across the border to get your truck. They will take you, they'll hold you ransom, they'll cut off a body part, they'll send it to your family, demand more money, and your family will pay because they want to get you back. And he said, and 4 months later, we'll find your truck abandoned under a bridge here in the United States, and your head will be cut off. I was like, what? Like that's like a plot to a movie.
Yeah.
He's like, he said, I'm dead serious. He said, we won't go anywhere near that. That's why. He said, you get a vehicle stolen anywhere like in the southern half of the county, we won't do anything about it.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I'm gonna chalk that one up to a lesson learned. And
Yeah.
you know, you saw my house, dude. I mean, my truck was locked, so I don't know how they got into it, but
Yeah.
And it's also a diesel with glow plugs. Like, again, I don't know how they
hotwired. You think this lady was involved?
She was. It's a scam that they run down here. They steal your car.
God.
It's crazy. It's absolutely
That's
craziest
insane.
thing. Yeah.
All right. So I got an idea. You're going to take every drone you have. We're going to throw them into the sky. We're going to send them. Are you kidding me? So when she called you, she wasn't calling you because she was some innocent person.
Nope. She was part of the plan. Yeah. It was wild. And for probably the first half of it, I was completely naive. And at the time, I was in Florida. My wife's in California. And so I called her. I was like, hey, somebody found my truck. And I started explaining the story. And she's like, Kyle, no, just truck's gone. And I was like, no, somebody found. She's like, Kyle, I'm telling you, like, I've lived here my whole life. Truck's gone. And then, I talked to the detective and hear the same story. And I'm like, okay, hey, Kyle, truck's gone.
Truck's gone. Truck's gone. Kyle New, I appreciate your time today, my friend.
Yes,
Kyle
sir.
knows everything drones, and I'm going to put something in the link down below where people can contact you if they want to take the course and get into the stuff. And if real estate doesn't pan out for me, I got 2 little girls, and they let me on the road, I'll come work with you.
Yeah, hey, we're all over the country, so I think you have some property up in Tennessee, right? Or you guys did?
I do.
We get work all around there all the time.
Hey, you know what? We might have to work something out.
Yeah, you can make money on your next vacation.
No, that's what I need to do, so I can help. It's just gonna be a pass through. It comes here, and I'm gonna give it straight to my wife and the kids. There you go. Just do what you need to do. So
yeah, that works in our household too.
Cool, Kyle New. Thank you so much, my friend. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.